flood-related matters on the last day of its sitting last Monday. That's coming up. Datin Sri ROSMAH MANSOR claimed that the voices in the much talked about "Can I Advise You Something" audio clips do not belong to her and her husband, Datuk Sri Najib Razak. She made the denial repeatedly during a cross-examination by lead Deputy Public Prosecutor Datuk Sri Gopal Siriram.
ROSMAH was testifying in her High Court trial for corruption against charges related to the 1.25 billion ringgit solar hybrid project in Sarawak. ROSMAH said the accusation made against her is utterly rubbish and that it could not be scientifically proven that she and her husband were the duo recorded. It was previously reported that the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) released recordings of the phone call which allegedly took place between ROSMAH and Najib. During previous hearings, ROSMAH had testified that the contents of the audio clip was just a conversation between a woman and her husband, which had nothing to do with her ongoing corruption trial.
The government has set aside 100 million ringgit worth of funds for post-flood recovery activities. Deputy Finance Minister Datuk Mohammad Shah Abdullah said this is among the various initiatives by the government to ease the burden of the people affected by floods that hit several states since last week.
He added that a compassionate payment of 5,000 ringgit to the next of kin of flood victims who died in the floods and 1,000 ringgit to each household affected by the floods will also be provided. Meanwhile, government agencies and banking sectors would also provide loan repayment assistance for flood victims with housing or property loans, car loans, credit cards and personal loans that include deferment or reduction of installment payments for up to 6 months. The Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, announced yesterday that Bank Simpanan Nasional will provide interest-free personal loan financing of up to 5,000 ringgit and a moratorium for the first 6 months on monthly installments to flood victims nationwide. For small and medium enterprises, special funding of 30 million ringgit for flood relief loans will also be provided under Tekun Nasional, while Bank Negara Malaysia is also working on increasing the allocation for the Disaster Relief Facility 2022 from 200 million ringgit to 500 million ringgit.
Meanwhile, in a press conference today, National Disaster Management Agency (NADMA) Director General Dato' Aminuddin Hasim reassured that flood victims with citizenship status and proven to have their premises destroyed by the floods are eligible to receive the assistance.
Sekiranya tidak mempunyai IC, kita faham. Kita faham masalah. Kalau tak ada IC, susah untuk mendaftar di mana-mana. Sekadar memadai, sekadar mereka merujuk kepada ketua komuniti JKK penghulu dan sebagainya. Cukup. Oleh yang demikian, kerajaan melalui NADMA dan juga Kementerian Kewangan Malaysia (MOF) telah mengambil langkah-langkah seperti berikut: memudahkan proses permohonan dengan terus menggunakan pendaftaran di PPS sebagai bukti mangsa terjejas dengan bencana tanpa perlu membuat permohonan.
Heavy monsoon rain are expected to hit East Malaysia from Monday next week. Malaysia has warned that torrential downpours coupled with strong winds are expected to hit Sabah, Sarawak and the east coast states of Terengganu, Kelantan and Pahang.
MetMalaysia forecasted heavy rain for Kuantan, Pekan and Rompin in Pahang, as well as Kelang and Kuala Langat in Selangor. Morning thunderstorms are also expected in eastern Sabah and the east coast of Peninsular Malaysia and West Sarawak. The monsoon, which is expected to start on December 27th, will also have the potential to bring continuous rainfall to western Sarawak.
The public are advised to stay away from rivers near the dams in Selangor. Selangor EXCO Izham Hashim said this following a stretch in dam holding capacity, risking possible water overflow from there.
However, Izham, who is also the Infrastructure and Agriculture Committee chairman, said the overflow of river water would be minimal. When reservoirs in the dams reach maximum level, excess water will overflow through the spillway channel to nearby rivers, but the rate of flow is controlled. Those in Selangor were advised to surf the Integrated Water Resources Management Systems portal or download the app for updated status of dam water levels in the state.
The raft of human interest stories over the recent flooding and poor disaster response has hidden the story of its cost to businesses and the economy. Tonight on Consider This, we ask our guests to tally the damage. We'll take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. There has been conflicting opinions to whether Parliament should have debated flood-related matters on the last day of its sitting last Monday. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Azhar Azizan Harun has debunked claims that he rejected a motion for the debate, saying no motion was submitted in the first place. Senior lawyer Datuk Sri Jahabirdin Mohamad Yunus gives his take on the matter.
The Parliament and the Speaker himself is subject to standing orders. And we must always remember that the Speaker of Parliament himself must be regulated. So if you look at the standing orders, Order 18, for instance, Order 18.1, now that governs how any member of Parliament can bring forth a matter of urgent public importance. Now Order 18.2 very clearly says that if a member wishes to ask for leave or present a matter of public importance, he must do so 24 hours before that. Now, these 24 hours, I believe, could have been waived by Tan Sri Azhar. However, before you can ask for a debate, you must have an usul. Now, what's the importance of the usul? If you look at 18(2), all that the usul needs to contain is only a 300 words of the matter. Just 300 words of the matter. Now, this is something that the Member of Parliament could easily have done. Now, if you remember, the flood was on the 18th and 19th. And on the 20th, which is a Monday, that was the day where the Parliament sits again. Now, on 18 and 19, the floods already happened, and we already have indication that YB Khairi will not be tabling the bill. And that's exactly what happened on the 20th. YB Khairi did not table the bill. So the members of Parliament now ask the Speaker to discuss the flood issue. The question is, the Speaker is going to allow the discussion based on what? He doesn't have a usul before him.
He also refuted suggestions to use Order 100 of the Parliamentary Standing Orders, allowing the Speaker to call for debate as it is not in line with the law.
Some lawyers are saying that Tan Sri Azhar, the Parliamentary Speaker, can use Order 100. Now, with respect, I tend to disagree. Now, Order 100 of the standing orders can only be used if there is no other order specifically mentioning this matter. Now, we already saw just now that Order 18 already mentioned about usul. Therefore, since there's a specific Order 18 talking about usul for urgent matters, Order 100 cannot be used. That's number one. Secondly is, if the Speaker was to use Order 100, he cannot be inconsistent with an existing order, which is Order 18.
The Dewan Negara today passed the bill to amend the federal constitution in line with the provisions in the Malaysia Agreement 1963 with more than 2/3 majority. 49 senators voted in favour of the bill in a block voting after the second and third reading, while 5 others were absent.
Senate President Tan Sri Rais Yatim said no senators voted against the bill on both readings. On December 14, the bill was passed at the Dewan Rakyat, also with more than 2/3 majority. The bill gives recognition to the demands and special status of Sabah and Sarawak upon joining Malaysia in the federal constitution in line with the provisions in MA 63.
On to the international front, the Philippines today approved emergency use of Merck & Co. Inc.'s COVID-19 treatment pill for adults at risk of severe illness. This as it tries to boost the country's arsenal of drugs to fight new variants.
In October, the Food and Drug Administration allowed 31 hospitals in the Philippines to use Merck's Molnupiravir even before the oral antiviral medication was approved for wider use. Meanwhile, the country also approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for children aged 5 to 11. FDA Chief Ronaldo Enrique Domingo said the vaccine will be administered in a pediatric formulation once it becomes available. He added that the benefits outweighed the risks and it was already being used for children in the US and Canada.
Rescuers retrieved 2 more bodies today, bringing the total fatalities from a landslide in northern Myanmar to 3. Authorities said over 70 others were missing, but the number has yet to be confirmed.
The landslide struck an illegally run jade mine in Pakan on Wednesday. Authorities said dozens of miners who were digging for jade were swept into a lake a couple of hours before dawn when the landslide hit. Miners come from across Myanmar to dig through piles of waste left by industrial mining firms in hopes of finding an overlooked hunk of jade. Pakan is a mountainous and remote area in Kachin State, 950 kilometers north of Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon.
Up to 13 million people have been placed into lockdown in the city of Xi'an, China, as authorities move to clamp down on the community spread of COVID-19. This after mass testing this week identified 127 COVID-19 infections scattered across 14 districts there.
All residents in Xi'an are barred from leaving their houses except to buy living necessities every other day or for emergencies. Travel to and from the city is suspended except for certain circumstances requiring official approval. All non-essential businesses have also been closed. The snap lockdown on Thursday comes little over a month before Beijing is set to host the Winter Olympics. The restriction that took effect at midnight Wednesday is one of the harshest since China in 2020 imposed a strict lockdown on more than 11 million people in and around the central city of Wuhan.
Australia reintroduced COVID-19 curbs such as mandated mask wearing indoors, capacity limits and QR code check-ins. The changes covering most of the country's 25 million population 2 days before Christmas mark a reversal of its plans for a permanent reopening after nearly 2 years of stop-start lockdowns.
The COVID-19 curbs were reinstated in the most populous states of New South Wales and Victoria, where the bulk of cases are in. More than 8,200 new cases were reported in Australia on Thursday, the biggest daily rise in the pandemic. While hospitalizations and deaths remain low, the explosion of infections had created a risk of healthcare workers being furloughed by testing positive. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has vowed yesterday never to return to lockdowns, saying Australians must now take personal responsibility for managing their health.
That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and the Astro AWANI app. I'm Farhana Sheikh. We'll see you again.